the root cause of crisis lies in human consciousness. Whatever outer crisis we face is the result of the inner crisis. So outer and inner, they are not separate, but they are deeply connected. The inner influences the outer, and the outer also affects the inner. So there is a dialogue going on. And to address the crisis just at the level of influences outwardly, we won't be able to meet the crisis fully. We have to address the crisis inwardly. And the question is, how do we meet that crisis? And we realize that the crisis in human consciousness is actually the result of our ignorance, which is inattention. Ignorance about our whole being, not knowing oneself as one is, or not connecting to oneself directly, but through the baggage of the past. This crisis, this inner crisis, comes into existence through the activity of the self or the ego, which in turn is an activity of past memories or thoughts. Thought which is quite useful in physical world, it becomes quite dangerous when it enters into the psychological domain, when it enters into our relationships, when we start looking at everything through the narrow vision of past memories. So in a deep sense, a conditioned mind is responsible for any crisis. And when conditioned mind tries to address the crisis on the basis of its past knowledge, it further complicates it. So we cannot meet the crisis fully, completely with the baggage of the conditioned mind. This is first thing to realize, that mind or the thought has to be really silent in order to meet the crisis. Otherwise, we will be reacting to the crisis. So there is a difference between reaction and response. When we are reacting from our past background automatically, then we maintain the crisis. So the tool which created the crisis, which maintains the crisis, cannot handle the crisis, cannot really dissolve the crisis. So that's why I feel that Krishnaji's teachings, they are showing us the crux of the problem. Once we understand the problem, the solution is there. When we try to find the solution away from the problem, we are escaping. So the problem is this conditioned mind, or I would say that unawareness of this conditioned mind. Ignorance about this conditioned mind. When we are not aware about the mechanism, the nature of this conditioned mind, it starts dominating all our life. And what is the nature of this conditioned mind? The first thing is that it always lives by reacting from its past background. And second thing is that it is always moving in contradiction, in opposites. It never meets what is the reality directly. It reacts to the reality, to what is, and projects what should be. So this duality or conflict continues in our lives. And that is a form of crisis. Because this is the nature of the conditioned mind, that it will always react to the present reality and escape into some kind of ideal or what should be. And this is the whole process of becoming. A conditioned mind is always caught in this network of becoming something, because it is never satisfied with what is. It is all the time trying to become something. So this is the nature of the whole problem. The thought, when it moves, when it gets activated into the psychological field, it creates a sense of I, center. And then that center is trying to dominate whole of our life, all our relationships, everything on this earth. So is it possible to realize the danger of this psychological movement of the self or thought? Whatever ego does, it will create a crisis. And ego moves in the darkness, in the ignorance. When there is no attention, thought is moving without any sense of awareness, and it is creating disorder, disharmony. So this is the nature of the whole problem. And if we are able to look at the problem, not react to the problem, then there is a possibility of resolving that problem. And this capacity of exploring a problem out of freedom is there with all of us. And the tools of those exploration, as we discussed yesterday, we have this tool of awareness. Kay calls it choiceless awareness or attention. Part of this attention is this pure observation, pure listening, pure love, pure compassion. They are all part of the same unconditioned energy. So we can meet this crisis, which is the result of this conditioned movement of energy, only from this unconditioned field of energy. Otherwise, we remain caught in the loop. Why do we wait for any crisis to wake us up? Because this is our usual experience in our life. Whenever a crisis comes or a deep suffering comes, we become awake. It's like a shock. Then we try to do something about it and again go back to sleep. So this is another deep question. Why do we need any crisis to awaken us? Is it possible to be awake without any crisis? I think this question perhaps we didn't explore yesterday enough. Why do we need any crisis? Though crisis is there everywhere, and clearly all the crises are an outcome of our ignorance, our deep ignorance or deep unawareness. That means we are living in a kind of mechanical sleep. That's why crisis keeps coming. They are all around us, inside us. And the only action, complete action, is to be awake to the very root of the crisis and not go back to sleep. And if we are really awake, attentive, then why should any crisis come? Of course, challenge may come, but those challenges can be met with that whole intelligence of the brain, of our being. Not with the partial intelligence of the thought. There is an intelligence of a still mind. There is an intelligence of pure observation. There is an intelligence of compassion. And this intelligence is not limited to intellect or thought. So can we live with this intelligence, which is the only complete action? We talked about this right action yesterday. The question of right action, the better word would be the holistic action, the complete action. Because usually we are reacting from our past background, and that is not the action, not the real response. The complete response comes out of clear perception, out of pure observation, out of pure listening. Then whatever is taking place is a doorway to learning, to freedom. Then we don't have to go anywhere else. The freedom, the learning, or one may call it that deep love, is in this very living moment. And can we meet this living moment with the newness, with the fresh energy? The fresh energy of this deeper intelligence of life.